Guys, we're going to get Chaka Malik from Burn and Ghost Decibels and Orange 9mm joining us any second now. So I have a laundry list of questions for him. I might even restart this and start over again because I am such a huge fan of his entire catalog, and he is a great guy. All right, he should be popping up in just 1 second.
Yo.
Chaka, what's up, man? How you doing?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. What's good?
Oh, man, you are a expert at these things now. This is your second episode.
I know. Yo, I had to log out for a second. It wouldn't show me the your request thing, so I couldn't get on.
No.
So that's why.
I will apologize this time because what happens, which I think you experienced the other day, is that
get cut off.
We're going to get cut off, and then I'm going to start over again. So you have to rejoin me. But yeah, man, how's life treating you through these difficult times?
Hey, man, just trying to be creative and also test my fucking thoughts on shit as well. You know what I mean? A lot of information out there. Who knows what's true, what ain't true? So I'm just trying to really engage myself, get into take myself out of the meme mentality, knowing that I'm gonna have to spend more than 30 seconds on figuring out what something means and trying to stay positive, get some air. What about you?
Well, that's the whole point of what I'm doing. I'm trying to shine a light on my talented friends like yourselves. And I'm just trying to find ways to keep people entertained because that's what I know how to do, you know.
And that's a killer thing. It's killer.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna do a little ass kissing really quick if that's cool.
Oh.
I first got into hardcore in about 1995, and a good friend of mine played the Burn self-titled demo, not the demo, but the EP. Sorry.
Right.
And I loved it. And he said, you should check this out. If you like that, it's the singer's current band, and it was the EP that
The Orange 9 EP.
But yeah, Orange 9. And I've been a gigantic fan of your catalog ever since then, and it's been about I don't even want to say. I think that's 25 years of my life.
Incredible respect. And yo, I mean, big ups. Put some fucking love in the comments for Spotlights doing their fucking thing. Don't try to act fucking humble, motherfucker. You're an ill musician in your own right.
Thank you, Chaka. Let me ask you. I'd like to go in a biography kind of way from the beginning. Where are you originally from?
Grew up in Queens in Woodside Projects on the border of Woodside and Astoria. My high school was attached to my projects the way they are in many urban environments. You might find that. Started going to shows when I was, I guess, 16. Before that, was super into, DJing records, like cutting loops up and hip hop, basically, like Planet Rock, Sucker MCs, break beats, anything that sounded hard and dark and made me want to move around, and that's what I was into.
I was going to ask you what came first, graffiti, hip-hop, or hardcore?
Mike Dijon.
Mike Dijon.
Hip-hop definitely came first.
Okay. And how old were you when you were discovering all this stuff for the first time?
I guess I may have been 15 when I got into, maybe I was 16. Probably I was 16 when I got into hardcore.
Okay.
And that happened kind of via mistake. I was watching my sister Brian High School in Lafayette. I was watching my little sister, and she ended up going into the kitchen and spraying oven cleaner in her eye, and that shit fucked everything up. I had to go to the doctor with my mom. I borrowed my mom's kind of little portable radio thing and ended up finding Minor Threat right there in the waiting room. Kind of interesting, obviously, with Fugazi with the waiting room song, but but yeah, that's how I got into hardcore, and then from there I started listening to Crucial Chaos, and much love Johnny Stipp. I love Johnny, and then started going to shows. Just being like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to one of these damn shows they're talking about.
I wanted to go there too. And by the way, everybody, Johnny Stiff is an awesome, legendary dude. He drove bands around all over New York City I think he might have even driven the Clash at one point.
Likely.
Yeah, and there are T-shirts being sold online to help him out with his medical bills. He's suffering from the unfortunate virus that's out there right now. So he was a host of Crucial Chaos, which was a huge part of getting people like Chaka and even myself in the 90s into hardcore. So if you could support Johnny Stiff, that would be amazing. And you could go online, I'm sure, and find out how you do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, some of the first shows, how did you discover the venues, and what were those first shows and places you were going to?
Yeah, I mean, it was from Crucial Chaos. It was from Johnny Stiff and Spermicide saying, this Saturday at the Pyramid, side by side with so-and-so and so-and-so. And I remember walking from, Freddy talks about that, that record shop walk that we used to do. There was one I did by myself before then, right before I kind of started hanging with Freddy, where I was going from these hip-hop record stores, and then I decided to walk downtown. I didn't have enough money for another train fare, so I had to walk downtown, so I still had to get back to Queens. So I would walk downtown, and I ended up walking to the Pyramid to see the show. And I didn't have any money to get in, but I just wanted to like look and just see, like, and it was crazy. I mean, it was like fucking summertime in 1986 or some shit, seven, I guess. And it was a hardcore matinee, and it was fucking like, it was scary, man, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. People don't talk about Pyramid that much, and it's crazy because it's still there. It's the only place.
Yeah.
That survived somehow. I was actually just there with Gavin at some rave recently.
Oh, nice. What up, Gavin?
Yeah, just hearing stories about the Pyramid and all that shit. But so you and Freddy, did you start going to your first shows together?
No, I was going to shows by myself, and I'm not even sure how I met Freddy. Maybe Freddy remembers how I met Freddy, but then we just started hanging out from there. But I don't really remember how we met. Oddly,
he mentioned it was at Some Records on 6th Street.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then he showed us
that makes sense.
the iconic photo of you sitting outside.
That's on St. Mark's on the west side.
Got it.
Yeah, and just so people know, Some Records was basically like the back room of a punk rock clothing store. Yeah. So it was basically some makeshift record cabinets kind of, and the records weren't in the sleeves, and he had, shirts hanging up. And there was one day I went in there, and he had like 5 different Screwdriver shirts. And I was let down because Dwayne, I'm serious. Dwayne, we'd hang out and talk about the blues. We talk about my homework. We talk about all kinds of shit. I'd be in there hours. And I was like, Dwayne, why do you have those?
Right. That is.
And he said something like, well, Shaka, some people like to hear it. Or something like that.
Unbelievable, man. I mean, yeah, that was a time when you guys, I wasn't even going to go there, but in the 80s, that there was more prevalent violence when it came to skinheads and that sort of thing. Was that ever a problem for you, running into kids that were into that sort of thing, like
like fucking with me because I'm black or something?
Right, like the Nazi.
Oh, by no means.
Yeah,
but thankfully, by no means. I mean, the only story I have around that, like where there was any Scotty Banks, we were standing in front of CB's, and he's like, "Yo, Chaka, check this out." And he walks across the street to like where the Nazis were standing in front of what I guess Butcher Block, I guess it used to be, and he just punches one of them in the face.
Oh man!
And the guy falls down, and he just walks back across the street.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, that
was when Nazis used to hang out at CB's.
Yeah, no, it's such a strange concept to think about from the time that I came up, because at that point in the mid to late 90s, I think there was a lot more acceptance going on. You saw people, but I never even thought about how hard that had to have been to be around that sort of thing back in the day. But let me ask you, the typical hangout spots. Freddy was telling me earlier about the sort of walk from like Bleak Hobbs and all that. What were your favorite hangout spots back in those days in the 80s?
Favorite hangout spots. What up, Charlie? Some Records, as I said. I mean, that was really more of a hangout. I remember being in there one day. It was like all of Side by Side. I think maybe Walter may have been down there. Somebody's Altercation was down there. Just listening to records, probably like 15 people from like New York bands of that size that were like, I mean, that was where the Pulse was at the time. Those were like the new kind of bands, just hanging out in there, listening to music, going through the records. So Some Records obviously was dope. there was a couple of squat shows, and other people can tell you more about this than I can. But I went to like maybe 2 or 3 squat shows. Ralphie Boy was one of the major people. Squat or Rot was the I guess the kind of organization that threw the parties and threw the kind of punk shows. Tompkins Square Park, Washington Square Park was actually a big hangout too. Um, Fuck, what else? I mean, keep in mind as well, like I was 16, so I really wasn't trying to like, I was 16 to 19, so I really wasn't able to be out all night at like some cabaret or something.
Right,
So
right.
when I was hanging out, it was like, generally like after a show or during the day.
I mean, you guys, for us, me and my friends, which I guess we're like more third generation New York.
C squat.
Yeah, oh, C
Hmm.
Spot, yeah, of course. And but yeah, you guys were kind of like urban legends to us because we had heard your music and we had seen you around, but we were like, several years younger. So when I moved to Fifth and Bowery, and I would see you because you were still hanging out, you and
Hmm.
Sergio from Quicksand
Yeah.
would be DJing and doing your thing and throwing parties at Lit Lounge, and I'd see Mark Ryan and me and my
Hmm.
friends are like, you know, late teens, early 20s, like, oh man, yo, that's fucking Chaka from Burn and Mark Ryan from Supertouch. And it was just so wild to us. You guys were just there. That's why it's cool to see the documentary and hear
Hmm.
stories, when did you decide, like, when was the first time when you were like, I want to be involved? I don't want to just be a fan. I want to be active. I want to do something.
Right. Also, just to throw in there, hangout spots, House of Vegetarian and Vegetarian's Paradise.
Oh, yeah.
Those were hangout spots back then, before and after shows. Um, well, maybe, I think I was just a hard dancer and it just it seemed normal. I don't know. I used to like to dance, and I think Absolution was breaking up, and I was kind of around Absolution a bit and Gavin a little bit. And Gavin used to bomb with us, do graffiti and stuff. And so I think it was just kind of like good timing, in a certain sense, for me to team up with Gavin. Because obviously, if there's no opportunity, I don't know that I was going to go out and try to find, hey, like you want to play guitar and do a that really I don't think is not that's not where it came from. So yeah.
And so you kind of you brought up two topics that I was going
Hmm.
to get into, which is graffiti as one thing and burn. Let me start with graffiti though, because we could kind of go off on the burn thing afterwards. But when did
Hmm.
you start writing and getting involved with graffiti?
I started writing graffiti, I guess, in like '85 or something like that. Like I used to write skein, but I wasn't really bombing. I started hitting trains in '86, something like that. And I only really did that for about 3 years, really '86 to kind of '89 ish. And after that, did some random things. But I didn't, I grew to like not feeling like I could get caught for doing something like that. And I don't know. I had other things to do.
Sure, sure. Did you have a preference of trains? Was trains your thing?
Yeah, honestly, the funnest shit, we used to bomb trains at, I guess 36th Avenue in Astoria. They used to lay up ends, or I guess it was at the because they were switching the ends and R's back and forth for a while. So it was, I believe it was the R's, and there's an express track, and you jump down off the track on either side, and you start doing your thing. And if you had keys, and I had some keys, you could go inside and you could do insides, and you could walk the length of the trains and do your insides, and hopefully make it home before mom moves the covers and sees a couple of soccer balls in a duffel bag or something.
Right, right. Such a wild thing, man. I had a brother-in-law that was a graffiti artist back then. He actually
Hmm.
he got hit by a train. Was
Whoa.
horrible, but it gave, I was always exposed to graffiti and all this stuff from my Queens friends, and
Hmm.
when as tragic as his death was, it was really interesting because he like was risking his life to get his name up on a train, and
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that. It might sound silly to an average person, but like
Hmm.
there's a thrill to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful art, and there's something like a huge accomplishment when you get it up there and you survived it. You know what I mean? And so
I do.
I got a lot of respect for graffiti artists. I never was one, but I love graffiti as a art form and as a lifestyle. I really admire people that do that. But
Nice.
yeah, now moving to the burn thing, is
Mm-hmm.
that the first time you ever sang?
I think so. Yeah.
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 Um,
Yeah.
and so I know you were saying Absolution broke
Mm-hmm.
up. You and Gavin became friends, and that kind of explains how that worked out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that EP, man, it's still revered and covered by bands and talked about. And I recently heard on something, I don't remember what interview or documentary it was, but there was a New York centric. All right, so I was saying the Burn EP has
Mm-hmm.
been heralded almost in the same light as Age of Quarrel or Victim in Pain to some
Mm.
people that I talked to. Like, did you realize when you were doing that, or when you were finished and listened back to it, that you made something real special that you could have that you should have been proud of?
No, I will tell you, there's a crazy dude from DC, who John knows, really one of the crazy DC dudes. They were known for being some of the illest fans and just being crazy. And he was in Washington Square Park, and he's like, and he was friendly to me at the time. He had been bitten by a dog. He just looked crazy. If I People know who he is, and so he's like, "Yo, what are you listening to?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I had this band, and we just finished recording." I mean, I'm still pretty young at this point, and I was not scared, but I mean, this is a dude that's known for basically just beating anybody's ass. And he's like, "All right, let me see it." So he puts the headphones on and he's like listening to it. And he's like walking around. He comes like, he's like, "Yo, this shit is hard. This shit is hard." And honestly, when he said that, I was like, "Oh shit, this might be dope." Because like, I mean, this guy's like one of the storied, crazy, kind of crazy DC white boys that like everybody was afraid of.
Right, right, right. That's a really cool sort of validation to hear from someone whose opinion that you regard. I love that. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm going to give a shout out to somebody that had a question that they wanted me to ask. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here because of death that he suffered from this horrible.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear
But
that. Fuck.
I just want to say shout out to Ralph Torres from Total Meltdown. He wanted to ask what was the inspiration behind the lyrical content on the first Burn EP.
Just life, man. I mean, you're dealing with like a bunch of different topics, and Gavin and I wrote Out of Time together, so that must be said. Um, but I mean, like Drown was about me and my dad. Who recently my dad just moved on, so I pray for him and his soul. Um, and the thing I liked about that song is that a lot of people thought it was about a kind of a love affair between a man and a woman, and it was that in the sense that about the potential of teaming up with someone and doing something that's bigger than both of you. And I think that and that to me is the most important part of a relationship. The potential, any spiritual text, any common sense tells you that, four arms are better than two, or two heads are better than one, or whatever you want to choose. And it really kind of was rooted in that. And obviously, Shall Be Judged was about the fact that like we were all hanging out and working in the health food kind of stores and things like that, and that was really important to us. And I had grown up pescatarian, but then had brought on my own kind of vegan thing from being there and kind of being around those folks and listening to them and seeing why they cared about what they cared about. And that was really, really, really good. Godhead. I didn't grow up with any particular religion. I believe in God and stuff like that, but I didn't grow up with any religion. Godhead was really about the fact that I was trying to figure out how that can make sense, like not, and kind of through the lens of someone that was kind of using it for their own power, I guess. You know what I mean? Kind of explaining away both the fact that maybe there is some good in having, like people like Anthony Fauci right now. Anthony Fauci is being voted one of the sexiest people in the world. he's not sexy because you want to have sex. He's sexy because he's bringing information to you that makes you feel comfortable. He's a single source, and that is a part of the Godhead, right? It's a unification point. So all of these things are really kind of multi-leveled, and then out of time is that's a lot of that's kind of more. I think I would point to Gavin's kind of take, and I think Numerality also another kind of a Gavin song. Well, I'm not going to say it's a kind of a cynical thing, but it's definitely kind of an edgy take and kind of a I don't know what the right word is, but Gavin has always had great lyrics, so that was a blessing to have those lyrics there.
Shall Be Judged, specifically the fact that it was a vegetarian inspired song, I think was interesting because what we're so used to. I mean, let me not just say that song, but like in hardcore at the time, and I wasn't around, but just listening to what was around at the time, we're so used to lyrics about getting stabbed in the back,
right?
Edge songs, vegetarian songs that were a little more straightforward. Your lyrics were a little more, in my opinion, poetic, and I felt like
Thank you.
Like almost like a beat poetry delivery. Some people said hip hop more beat poetry, or slam poetry. Sorry. Is it fair? Is that a coincidence, or is that something that you were inspired by, like that type of delivery?
Yeah, my dad, it's going back to my dad again, and we were talking about this because my dad had a bunch of like avant-garde jazz records that ended up at both lofts Power Street was the first house that Byrne had, and then we moved into a loft on 6th Street, and Alan, Mark Ryan, I don't know about Gavin so much, but a lot of people that were around us were all listening to these weird jazz records. So we had kind of like, we're really getting into like this kind of like avant-garde, kind of left of center, kind of weirdo jazz shit. And it was old jazz. It wasn't like new kind of like, it was like hard shit where like, fuck, it sounds like Converge or something, And I think that really, that's where I just felt at home, I just think I felt at home there. That's where the creativity kind of bubbles up for me.
Yeah, no, and the other thing about your guys, the New Breed compilation and the Burn stuff and everything that you and your friends were doing aesthetically stood out. There was always an aesthetic in punk rock and hardcore, of course. Like when you look at, Cro-Mags had some really powerful artwork.
Fuck yeah.
Agnostic Front, but there was a way, like I know your father took the photo that was on the Burn.
The back of the Burn.
Yeah, man, just the shit was just fresh and different. Again, going back, and I'm not missing bands. I love all the Youth Crew stuff. I love it, but it was, if anything, very much like the early Discord stuff. People with X's on their hands, skinheads, and then eventually the Champion hoodies. So the individuality, man, mad proud.
Right.
That's all I want to say about that. But
thank you.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Before I get off Burn, the second EP was rumored to have been out on Roadrunner. Is that true? Like it never happened, but it was supposed to? That was
no, I mean, I think statute of limitations is up on that, but that basically, so a friend, because I don't really know how. A friend from that label helped us to record those songs.
Got it. Okay.
I think that's probably the best way to put it.
Understood. And then, I want to get into, Burn was around for a bit. Obviously, there's been, you guys got back together, broke up, and in between that time, obviously did Orange 9mm. How did Orange 9mm form?
Orange 9 formed, Burn was naturally kind of coming to its end. That Gavin and I had auditioned everybody who's ever touched the drumstick in New York City. I wish you were around back then. Seriously, we couldn't keep a drummer. I think Alex wanted to ghost as well. It was just kind of time. It was just links were getting stretched, changed. The bonds were getting stretched, I think, a bit. And we played a show in Connecticut. Trainer was at that show, the guitar player for Orange 9. And somebody introduced us, like, yeah, you guys should talk or something like that. So we did. And next thing you know, like we're just hanging out in the city, and we start talking about bands, like what bands do we like, and what bands do we want to kind of model a project after. And we decided a Tribe Called Quest, Screaming Trees, and Smashing Pumpkins.
I heard that recently, and it makes so much sense to me. Yeah,
I know, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so then we would just go and we'd be in Chris's house and he'd be playing guitars and stuff. And eventually I was like, "Yo, Don, I have this band." He's like, "All right." He's like, I'll give Don money for you guys to go and just record a demo." So I'm like, "All right, cool." So we recorded a demo at Don's, and I wish I had these songs, man. There weren't vocals, but they were fucking hard. And so Don's like, "All right, yeah." I mean, not sorry. Jordan's like, he heard the song. He's like, "All right, record as much as you have. Record an album. I can't just record." We only had 4 songs. We recorded them, and that was the EP.
I love that. Like when I first heard Orange Nine, and it was the same time I heard Into Another and Quicksand,
Mm-hmm.
and like what all you guys were doing at that time sounded like music from the future. At that point, it sounded like some things that I had never heard. And I was wondering, when you went into Orange Nine, obviously you were on a major label, that was sort of happening with a lot of bands.
Absolutely.
Did you go into that, would you say, with a different mindset um, than when you went in with Burn, or do you kind of attack everything in a sort of similar way, like, no bias, this is just how I do my thing, you know what I mean?
I do, and I think that part of me wants to say, yeah, man, no bias. I'm just the same way. But I think that would be a lie, right? Because you're wrapped up in the experience of being, whatever, a 23-year-old kid getting signed to a major label with your friends.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not the same as any other experience if you play music. You know what I mean? So it's going to be uniquely different, and I think the things that we could have did better, and I mentioned this on another podcast. Like I think when a band gets signed, sometimes, especially back then, where they were just like throwing all this money out at you and stuff like that, and saying, "Okay, like sign this label, and like we're gonna take your whole team now. Like we're gonna be your manager, we're gonna be the booking agent, we're gonna be this, we're gonna be that," and we weren't down with that. You know what I mean? We weren't down with giving up our booking agent, and we kept our agent and stuff like that. And I think that's the interesting thing about signing with labels is like you want the label to give you the best chance to win, and sometimes you don't realize that like a lot of what the label's doing is tied to their relationship. So you almost have to come up under half these other people to reap, I think, the greatest benefit from being a part of that system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. I mean, it had to have been uniquely strange in ways to, as exciting as it is to take that leap. And, I'm going to just remind anybody watching that may not realize this, but the first Warped Tour, a lot of the bands that I'm talking about from New York were headlining. That was the first Warped Tour.
Yeah.
Obviously had Sick of It All, but there was Quicksand, Orange Nine, and a lot of non
Civ,
bands. Civ, thank you.
H2O.
H2O, yeah, and goddamn, man. So like, I remember seeing you guys. One day I saw you at Coney Island High. Then I saw
Mm-hmm.
you on television on some, like, I don't remember what show it was, but you were performing on USA Network, and like,
Nice.
what's a big highlight for you from that time period where you just look back and think to yourself, man, that was a real special time?
You know what? I'll say this, and I think anybody that you make music or you listen to music, you can relate to me. Like I love Hendrix, and I liked him more earlier than I do now. But like when you listen to like records from your heroes in certain rooms at a certain time, and like this is like the first tour, and you can almost hear it. You can almost in the bootleg, you can almost hear the fire and see the excitement somehow through this audio recording. You can hear the time, you can hear the place, you can hear, as you said, the futuristicness being born into the present, right? And I think that for me, the Quicksand Helmet Orange 9 tour was that, because we were playing these kind of 1,000-ish, 1,500 seat rooms and hearing those riffs coming back in and out, bouncing off the walls in these halls. It sounded new at the time. And
Yeah.
it sounded exciting, and it sounded like, holy shit, we're carving out some shit right now.
You
You
really,
know?
you really were, and I hope that you are proud of that, because, a lot of people can say, and I've been there too, man, where it's just like, man, what a crazy time, and it's like a bummer when it's over. But like,
Mm-hmm.
you guys inspired like a generation of artists. I mean, like I talk to people today,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the guys POD, the guys in Papa Roach, the obviously,
Oh, I love those guys.
and all these bands. You know, shout out to Artie Shepherd. We talked about this one day.
Woo-hoo!
You guys, we felt that Orange 9mm, and in a way, you could even go back to Burn, for
Mm-hmm.
better or for worse, take it as you will, was
Mm-hmm.
almost a prototype for a lot of what became nu metal. You know what I mean? In a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I think we contributed the way many other bands did.
yeah. Let me ask you something too, and if you don't want to go there, I'm totally respectful of it. But do you think that there's ever a possibility we could ever see some kind of Orange 9mm reunion, some form?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I do.
I mean, I would pay for that.
Well, hopefully we'll put you on the list, right? I mean, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully we get out of this quarantine and we can get back to live music
Oh
and
my
do
God.
you know. Burn was supposed to play the B&B Bowl. Hopefully that's going to be rescheduled.
Mm-hmm.
What can we expect from your solo project, Ghost Decibels? Tell us about that and what we could check out that's out there.
Well, right now, I started doing this Ghost Decibel shit maybe 4 years ago, and just kind of trying to find a sound. I think I found something right now that I like. And if you go to in my Instagram, ghost underscore decibels, then you can listen to what I made available on Bandcamp via Freddy's label. Freddy's putting it out with me. And the Ghost Decibel stuff is really about that time when, and this is right back to what we're talking about, with carving the future becoming manifest. That time in whatever it is, 1979, 1980, in the UK, when people are kind of like still like punk, but they're also like, oh shit, that synthesizer is fucking interesting.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I kind of like dance music. I am getting a little older now. I'm not trying to stage dive right now. I still want to move. Okay, so let's make some kind of like aggressive-y kind of punk-ish, maybe a bit new romantic kind of music, and that's what the Ghost Decibel stuff is, and it's pretty dark. Um, and honestly, I think it's pretty exciting, and I think it stirs things up. People tell me that it's incredibly visceral, that they really feel it, and that really makes
Yes.
me feel real good. So please check that stuff out if you guys want to listen to some music.
Your Ghost Decibels project, in a way, for me, it's like your version of like a Nick Cave, kind of like your interpretation of something like that. And like you said, it's cool to kind of like, as you get older, kind of like find different ways to progress as an artist. And I really respect what you're doing. And I saw the one show that you played, and I thought it was really cool.
And that's about as the best compliment you could have given that show. I'm thankful I had a couple of cool women that were willing to kind of dance improv with me. But other than that, that was really early on in kind of developing what this thing is going to be. And honestly, I'm really hoping, because for me, like just the same way that you said the Burn shit was like lyrically different and emotionally different. That's what I'm really just carrying on with this Ghost Decibel shit. And I'm starting to really get comfortable with it. And what up, Doom? I'm starting to get comfortable with it, and I hope that other people will as well. I think it's really interesting stuff.
Absolutely. So I want to get back to the documentary. Obviously, did you have some questions that we were going to throw out there for the giveaway?
I have two questions, and they're both Hush related questions. Hush Sports Crew. The first question is, what up, Andrew? First question is, what video did Hush's tag appear in? What new wave band's video did Hush's tag appear in? And I may or may not have posted that in the last couple of months.
That's a tough
The second
one.
question is, name two members of Sports Crew. Name two members of Sports Crew. What up, Rodrigo?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it. So those are my questions. What new wave video does Hush have a tag in? And name 2 members of Sports Crew. That's his crew. SPORTS.
One guy wants to guess Bananarama. Is that accurate?
No, and also no, and Mike's disqualified.
Okay,
MZ's disqualified. He can't. This nigga can't participate. Okay, right. Hugo got 1 right. That's true. That's engaged.
Oh shit, Hugo for 1 out of 2. Come on, Hugo. All right, so
what video though? That's what we need to know. That's the burning question.
And so what are they winning? They're winning a copy of the Urban Styles Graffiti book. Is that what they're winning?
I think it's a picnic brunch with me. That's not good.
Okay, so the other question that that Freddy threw out there is, if you can guess the Beastie Boys, Mike D, and Ad Rock's tags, then you can also win. So any of these questions, if you can answer, and if you can't guess it here, you can send Chaka or Freddy a message with your answer, and they will gladly prize you if you can figure out.
Let's send all answers to Freddy so they're all in one place.
Okay, so that's Freddy Alva.
Freddy Alva, New York City.
Freddy Alva, NYC.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about a lot of old school shit, Chaka. Since Burn got back together, you guys have played a lot of different types of shows and festivals. What are your feelings on the hardcore scene today, from being back out there and seeing the scope of it and the new bands and all that? Like, what's your takeaway from what's going on these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's making its own progression. It's doing its own thing. I think the same way when Burn came out, we went a direction. I think that bands are taking existing sounds in different directions. I don't know. I mean, that's what I got on that. It's what it is. Things should change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's cool that we're seeing at least a resurgence. I mean, there's been a resurgence for a while, and that's cool. And in hardcore, it's always kind of, they always encourage you to kind of go back and look at who was before you, which doesn't necessarily happen a lot in some other styles. So that's something cool that I think is going on now with all these new bands, and
that oddly ties back into what I was talking about, because I think we're going back to the punk. And sometimes for me, the word punk just means the germ of doing something that like is at its core true in that existence, in that lane. You know what I mean? Because think about anything you do, like anything becomes a habit. Like I have a favorite, one of my favorite artists was doing these Instagram lives. He did the first one, I loved it. He's been doing them every day. I stopped watching.
Yeah.
Not because it's not great, but just because it's not that germ anymore. It's no longer this thing where everyone's seeking shelter. So, oh my God, he's going live. Once it becomes something that's not novel anymore, it's a problem. I think that a lot of the going back in the hardcore thing is seeking that novelty, to me anyway.
Yeah.
When it made sense to play that few chords that out of time because that's how you felt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Gonna say shout out to Sergio who just joined us. What's up, Serge?
What up, Vega?
Okay, so I do this at the end of all of my interviews towards the end, and it's kind of a tie into the quarantine. So if you were stuck in the quarantine, hopefully we'll get out of it, and you have 5 records that you're stuck with. What are those records?
No shit. All right. Joni Mitchell, Hijira.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Vega. Yeah, definitely Hijira. Bitches Brew, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew.
Fuck yeah, absolutely.
Pet Shop Boys, West End Girls.
Love it.
Yazoo, Don't Go. And those are singles. I'll take that. That's worth a record to me. Both those songs are so amazing to me.
That's a diverse list.
Say again?
That's a very diverse list. Yeah.
And then, fuck, man. Just because, like, for me, like, these days, because I've been focusing so much on the electronic that the rock is more of a texture. I really like that Umbra Vitae or whatever that thing is that Bannon just put out on Death
Okay.
Wish.
Okay.
And I would take that as my fifth.
I got to check that out, man. I'll take that recommendation.
It's hard, but it's also kind of clean. It's still musical, and I can still hear like chords, and it's not all noise, but still very noisy. It's a very nicely done production.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll take that recommendation. And if we're going New York hardcore, give me your top 5 records.
Top 5 records: Stimulators, Loud Fast Rules,
OG.
Bad Brains Roar Cassette, Cro-Mags, Demo, Fuck It. Shit.
You got 2 more.
I got 2 more, right? Fuck. AF, Victim in Pain. Fuck. Ooh. That's hard, man, right? Because
Dude, your next one has to be the New Breed compilation, man. Come on.
If I was going to do that, I would just say Burn or something stupid, you know?
Yeah. Oh, love it.
But I mean, it could be anything. I mean, the things that came into my mind, obviously, fuck. See, that 5th spot is so hard because Murphy's Law, Rest in Pieces, Youth of Today, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of shit that I really liked, that I really felt. Altercation Demo.
Okay. That's a deep dive there. I don't even know that.
That shit's hard, dude.
Yeah. That's all the Chromax stuff is on Spotify streaming now, and I get so many friends that we all worshipped Age of Quarrel but never heard the demo, and that they call it Before the Quarrel, but god damn, that shit is fucking hard, man.
Hard, right?
Ridiculous. Love the
Jerry Williams, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, I love the documentary so much, man. It came out really well, and I was telling Freddy, I love all the New York hardcore documentaries, but the way that you guys did it and the job that Orlando did editing aesthetically is fantastic. And anyone watching, the reason why we decided to do this tonight is because we're promoting the New Breed documentary. I mean, it's been out for a few years, in theaters. There were a couple premieres, but right now it's streaming online. And if you go on Urban Styles Graffiti in New York Hardcore, you can find the link to watch the whole thing online for free. And it's fucking great. It's not only about the documentary that Chaka put out in 1989,
New York,
but it's also just a story of the scene, and it delves into a lot of different parts of it that you don't really see in other documentaries. Man, good job. How did you feel about how it came out?
I mean, I think it's great. I think it's pretty dark, which I think represents the time. And I also think it's a bit, there's some humor in it, and there's a lot of heart in it, and really, and that's life, right? I mean, that's a family,
Yeah.
I think they did a wonderful job, especially Freddy with the kind of crafting and masterminding of the whole project. I think it gives you, I think any documentary should have a human interest piece. That means that if I'm watching a documentary, I shouldn't have to care about the topic. It should be about the people.
Right.
And I think that was successfully accomplished with this documentary.
Absolutely. I felt the same way. If you watch the Godfathers of Hardcore documentary, same way about that. Like, I always think, like, if I didn't know what the fuck this was, would I enjoy it? And they did a good job with that. And I felt the same way about the New Breed comp documentary. So very good job all around. And shout out to Sasha Jenkins as well, who I know obviously was a huge part of that. So well, Chaka, I guess we covered a little bit of everything. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna leave it to you if you have any final shout outs, comments, announcements, and then I can kind of tie it up after that and let people know where to find.
The one thing I would say to people, obviously check out the Ghost Decibels. The link is in my bio, Ghost Decibels EP. We're just on some real shit. I think that we're at a time now, y'all, where we have to be incredibly concerned when any of our freedoms are being limited in any way. I know many people that right now are not able to work, and we all know that this can't go on for very long, because it would lead to millions of people dying if the economy crashes. So I'm just hoping, I'm putting my intention out there that whatever this thing is that we're dealing with, that it would be removed as an impediment to us being able to have a functioning civilization. What up, Gab? Because we really need a functioning civilization right now where people can go out and go to work, where people can open up their gym, their coffee shop, where people can go to the rock concert, the punk show, where people can meet at a cafe and have a drink with friends. And that can't happen if we're all in our homes. So we really have to be aware and look for opportunities to heal the situation. We have to be, in my opinion, open to opportunities that can allow us some relief from what's causing us all to really be concerned about our present and our future. So I would ask all of you to, and even myself, to listen as deeply as possible to the voices that are coming in through the media, through our hearts, through our friends, through everything. And just be aware so we can get to a solution that can allow people to leave their homes safely as soon as possible.
Amen, man. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. So thank you so much, man. And thank you for being always such a down-to-earth dude, man. It means the world coming from somebody that always looked up to you, man. I know we said we were gonna bounce, but I feel bad not taking this one last question from Mike the Mosher. He just wanted to know who came up with the Burn shirt artwork.
Fuck, oh my God, this is from Jersey. And I just fucking saw him. Oh my, Tim. Oh my God. And I just saw him, and he did that. He did a great job on it. Tim. He's from Jersey. I'm forgetting his last name. Like, for some days my memory is not great on shit like this.
I don't blame you, man.
Sitting
at home like this will do that to you sometimes, man. But yeah, man. Again, it's just going back.
Oh, design with the horse? Oh, that's something different, dude.
Okay.
That picture. That's a shot that I put, that I designed, that I had my father come out. We went out to Washington Square Park. It was Ian Love from Rival Schools on the floor with the chalk around him, and then we had it was Stack. Was it Stack or Ian Love? No, it was Ian. And I remember there was a cop standing on the side, and I was like, oh shit. My dad's like, ask him to be in the shot. I was like, so I go over to the cop. I'm like, hey, we're doing a anti-teen violence thing. Were you willing to be in the picture? He's like, yeah, of course. So that's how we came up with that. But the logo itself was Tim, and he's a great guy. I'm forgetting his last name, and that's a shame on me.
Love it, man. These are all really awesome anecdotes and sort of deep dives to a lot of questions that I had and a lot of other people. So we might have to do it again, depending on how we're stuck here. But Chaka, I love you, man. Thank you for doing it. All right, stay safe out there, my friend, and I can't wait to see you play and see you hang out and all that when this is over.
Same here. Congrats on the great music.
Thank you. Okay, talk to you soon, brother.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Age of Quarantine. Really excited that we got Chaka, and I'm going to have to bounce in a little bit, but coming up next week on the St. Vitus Instagram, we have Full of Hell, Hot Water Music, Iron Chic, Youth Code, and I know I'm missing one. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but yeah, we have a really exciting list of guests coming up. I do this on my personal Instagram on the weekends, but it usually happens on the St. Vitus Instagram. And we got a write-up on Billboard yesterday, so thanks to everybody for watching and supporting. And all of these episodes are going to be on my YouTube channel. All you have to do is look up Christopher Enriquez on YouTube, and you can watch all the episodes that you missed. And hey, Sergio, thank you, man. I need to get you on the not a podcast, but I need to get you on the Age of Quarantine. So I'm going to be hitting you up very soon. So thank you. All right, guys, you're amazing. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy.